back to my channel. It's me, Landry, and today we are going to be talking about Best Medicine, Episode 3 of Season 1. It aired last night. If you're new, I started a series on my channel recently where I started doing reviews of what I thought about each episode as a Doc Martin fan and as a viewer of Best Medicine in general. So if you haven't seen those episodes yet, I've done 2 already. Please check them out. And I do want to give a disclaimer before starting this video. If you have not watched the show Best Medicine yet and you're wanting to, please do not watch this video until after watching Best Medicine, because there will be spoilers in this video, because I go do a deep dive of the episode of what we've learned so far, and I talk about a little bit of everything. So if you've already watched the episode and you're wanting to know my opinions, come on, let's talk about it. So we got to see Season 1, Episode 3 last night. I watched it when it aired, obviously, and then I've went back and watched it on Hulu before filming this. That way I can make sure I have everything that I want to say and want to cover everything. So let's talk about, this episode was really fun. I mean, not to say that the past 2 episodes haven't been fun. This episode has just been really fun because we've gotten to know the characters. We're getting to know the characters more. We're getting to see more storylines unfold. And it was just a really good episode overall, I think, in my opinion. So obviously the main part of the show was the baseball game. Junior, their star, got injured, and let's dig into that. So it starts out the beginning of the show. We have him practicing in batting practice, and you have Mark Milo, the sheriff, wants to throw a pitch to him because he used to be the star pitcher for the Mosquitoes when he was in school, which I find so funny. At first, I thought he was downplaying it a little bit. Thought that he was just trying to show off. Like, that seems like his character. And I still compare him to Barney Fife from Andy Griffith. Like, that's just funny. I think they act the same. And I thought when it was taking him forever to throw the ball, I was like, yeah, I think he's over talking about himself. I don't really think he was what he said he was. But then he throws the ball, the downward Milo or whatever he called it, and unfortunately, things didn't work out for Mr. Junior, and he hurts his back. And instantly Mark thinks that he's the culprit. So that was a big uh-oh moment. What is going to pan out? Because it looks like the star of the baseball team is not going to be able to play. Then we have Elaine. She is staying in Doc's living room / waiting. I think it's the waiting room. He calls it his living room, but I feel like it's probably the living room / waiting room. And, of course, the dog that has no name, which, can we please give the dog a name pretty soon? Because if he's going to be a main character of this show, I think he deserves a name. Martin says he's not going to name him. He will remain nameless, but I feel like he needs a name because he's just a part of the show at this point. But we have Elaine staying in his living room, and, of course, she's still doing her social media stuff. She's moved on, though. We went from Bear With Me to game shows in the waiting room to now we have a coffee show called Coffee Talk with Elaine, talking about her life problems and stuff. She's getting really personal, and I found that funny that Martin, walks in, and the Doc walks in, and he's like, "What are you doing here?" Because he clearly knew nothing about her staying there, and he clearly doesn't want her to stay there, because he makes the comment, he already has an unwanted guest, meaning the dog. And then I kind of felt bad for him, though. It gets to the part where she's talking and he kind of stops because she says, "I have a father figure." And I think he will never admit it, but I feel like Martin was hoping she was talking about him, because he kind of gives that smile, and then she says, "But he died." And you see that smile slowly fade away from Martin's face as he walks away. And I was like, that was kind of mean. I think she did it on purpose. Because he said he wants her gone. And I feel like Martin is going to become a father figure to Elaine more than she will realize and more than he will admit. Because throughout this episode, he has shown compassion to her. in little ways that he may not seem to think he is, but like the little small talk he was having with her, I can tell. I think he's going to have positive impacts in her relationship. I think he's going to become a father figure to her. Then we see a lot of Aunt Sarah in this episode. Aunt Sarah's character is something else. I've loved her from the beginning, but this episode has kind of made me chuckle a little bit about learning about her personality. You know, she comes in and she has cut her hand because her rival Eddie McCoy, I think that was his name, Eddie McCoy, has went on her territory, stealing her lobsters. And so she went and cut his lines and ended up cutting herself. And, you know, right off the bat, she wants Doc to look at it. And he's like, nope, Elaine will take care of it. And then the little jokes are so funny. I don't think he means to say these things. Like, I think he's just being sarcastic. But the way he delivers them cracks me up about the whole thing where she's talking about, Elaine's like, oh, you're still having that feud with him? And she's like, I will until the day he dies. And it's talking about how she wants to put him in a rusty lobster cage or whatever, his dead body in a rusty lobster cage. And Martin's like, the little line about, I should give you a tetanus shot. Okay, now you need a rabies shot because you're foaming at the mouth. And I just started laughing because, like, it's the little things that on the show that will crack you up. And then, of course, we learned that Junior is the son of Glendon. Glendon the bully. I was really hoping Glendon wouldn't make an appearance again. Or if he did, I was hoping it'd be later on because Glendon, I'm not a fan of Glendon. Like, he's a mean bully. After he flipped the plate of baked beans on Martin in the last episode, I'm not a fan. He just gave Martin a hard time. You know, we learned in the last episode, and started out in episode 1, we learned why Martin came to the town because of a 8-year-old girl came in with a heart from a car accident needing heart surgery. He couldn't do it because he froze. And then Aunt Sarah says something about, well, it's understandable because of Rosemary. Then episode 2, we learned that Rosemary was his sister that he had that was 8 years old and died in a car accident. So it bothers Martin. And we learned that he came to stay with Aunt Sarah in Port Wynne during that summer when he lost his sister. And that Glendon was a bully to him while he was going through that difficult time. So I have not been a fan of Glendon since we learned about Glendon. I'm not happy. And, you know, Glendon's not really caring that the doc is that Martin's trying to take care of Junior. He, in his mind, Junior is going to play in the game no matter what, and Doc's like, well, there's something wrong with him. And then, of course, you know, it had to happen to Doc because something has to go wrong for him. We have him talking to Glendon, and because Glendon's going to take his son, and the Doc's like, I'm not finished, and they're like talking back and forth. The son gets up, it kind of falls, I guess, because of pain. And Doc turns around and trips over him and breaks his arm. And I'm like, no, like, something always bad has to happen to the Doc. Like, it just has to happen. And I just felt so bad. I'm like, great, now he has a broken arm or whatever. And of course, in Doc's defense, he's like, well, his arm shouldn't have broke that easily. And now Glendon's upset with him and is going to send his son to the other town's hospital to get treated. And Doc's not liking this because Doc knows there's something wrong with him and he has to get to the bottom of this problem. And of course, Mark being Mark was a little too much over the top, in my opinion, about the whole thing. He went, woo, it was not my fault. It's your fault. Like, was that necessary? I'm like, can you for once be a little bit normal, a little teeny tiny bit normal? Like, somebody just got hurt, and you can tell the doc is not happy, but all you care about is that you didn't cause the injury. Which, in my opinion, technically nobody caused the injury. Yeah, the doc tripped over him, but like the doc said, there's something wrong with him. Why did his bones break that easily? And, you know, now we're going to be focused on that. Then you have the sweet moment with Elaine and Al. I really hope they get together. Because Al is just becoming sweeter and sweeter. And I think Elaine is slowly seeing that Al is becoming sweet on her because of his comments. He talks about how he loved watching her new show, and she's talking about how she really opens up to him, saying that she wanted to start this new show because she was doing everything else for likes and views, and she wants people to see a true side of her. Al makes the statement, just be yourself. They will fall in love with you if you're just yourself. And I just thought that was super cute that Al is really showing love and compassion to Elaine, and I just hope that she realizes that he is sweet on her and that she falls for him and doesn't hurt him, because right now it seems like all she is focused on her social media. And what else do we learn? Oh, poor Louisa. We see that Louisa is having she feels alone in a way because she doesn't have no fellow girls as friends to talk to relate to. She obviously finds this out whenever she's asking about her fashion choices with the jersey on Jersey and asking Greg and George, and they just straight out say they have no clue anything about fashion, and asks her if she doesn't have another girl to talk to about that. Even Sarah brings it up, do you not have a fellow girl friend to talk to? And she's naming these people, but clearly she doesn't, because she makes the comment, well, Mark was really the only person I could talk to, and I could tell that she's really feeling kind of alone. She wants to find that one person to talk to. So you can see that evolve, that she is kind of lonely. She wishes she has a friend, and we see that she tries to talk to her teacher's assistant, which I thought that was going pretty well. It seemed like they were bonding until the teacher's assistant basically insulted her, saying that she was old and that at her age, she feels that they need to be focusing on finding a guy to have a relationship with, when clearly Louisa has just gotten out of a relationship and probably hasn't healed from that, and she was just not helping the situation. She basically called Louisa old and lonely. And I was like, was that necessary? Because I was really hoping they were going to bond. Because at first it sounded like they were going to bond, but then not so much. And then we just keep, Aunt Sarah just keeps on with Eddie McCoy. First she cuts her hand, now she's trying to bust out windows and she hurts her hand. And then she tries to slash she slashes his tires, and I was like, we are really seeing another side of Aunt Sarah I didn't know there was, and it's kind of funny. Even Martin's like, she's a little too much, isn't she? Because he makes the comment, go away, or no, go home, because she says, why don't you want me to go do that to Glendon's car? And he's like, no, we're not criminals. And it's just like so funny. It's like, we're seeing a bad side of Aunt Sarah, which is kind of funny. It's kind of comical. I didn't see this. I didn't know she would have this side of her. So that's funny to see. And the back to the little comments, the little things that will make you laugh. For example, whenever he's in the waiting room, the patients are in the waiting room, and that elderly guy is in there, and they're all complaining because he's hurt the star player and it's hurt their chances of winning and this and that and the other. And he asks if they really have genuine medical problems. And the man and the woman sitting there, and she's yelling, he's arguing, and he says, yeah, my wife, she says, yeah, my husband can't hear. And he yells, well, she broke my eardrums because she yells. And it's like a whole thing. And he doesn't skip a beat. He gets a piece of paper and hands it to her. And she's like, what is this? And he says, oh, it's a prescription for a divorce. And I was like, that is hilarious. Like, I was laughing at the little things. And then the guy saying that, the elderly guy saying that he needs a prescription because of depression, because he hurt the star player. And it was just the little things, the little comments were cracking me up. And then, unfortunately, we see Martin gets served papers by Mark. And Mark thinks that him and Martin are best friends, and he still doesn't see that Martin does not want to be his best friend. But in Mark's head, they are best buds. He's bringing him donuts. That didn't really help anything. So Glendon has officially sued Martin. And, that goes over Martin's head because in Martin's mind, he didn't do it, and he's going to find out what's wrong. Why this kid's broke his bone so easily. He's not worried about his job getting terminated whatsoever. He is going to figure out what's going on. And we learn more about Elaine, why she's staying at the docks. She's having mom issues because he got in an argument with her mom because her mom's getting married, or her mom has had her boyfriend move in with her, and Elaine doesn't like her mom's boyfriend. That was a whole thing. And once again, she's talking to her phone. Doc thinks she's talking to him, and Martin's really actually interacting with her. She would just stop and listen to him and pay him attention for one moment. I mean, it was still annoying, he's looking for the files and everything. And he keeps paging her, and she's ignoring him. And then he pages her again, wanting to know why the files are not dated back past 2020. No answer. So he goes in there herself, and she's on her phone, and she's talking about how her heart's on the opposite side. And she can't eat tomatoes, and he instantly starts talking to her about, well, do you have a twin? And she's like, no, why would I have a twin? And he's really interacting with her for once. He's interacting with somebody, and he's explaining to her that she could have a twin because her heart's on the opposite side of her body, and is really having a heart-to-heart with her. And she's not listening to him really at all because she's glued to her phone. And then, now she's freaking out that she might have a twin. And she decides she's going to go talk to her mom about it. And that was another thing. I think Martin really thought that she was actually talking to him because she makes the comment that she wants to go out and talk to her mom. And he says that's okay because he needs to go out anyway. And then she really starts opening up, he thinks, because she's like, I've been lonely lately. And I've realized, and then she says that I'm living with an old person that is very lonely, and you could see the smile fade away again. He thought for once she was actually paying him attention, and that was not the case, unfortunately. She was just glued to her phone again, and I just hope that maybe, like I said before, I hope that she realizes that he could really be a father figure to her, and they get a better relationship, whether he cares to admit it or not. I think that would be good for both of them. What else? Oh, we learn about the jeopardy of the school because Louisa finds the papers in the printer, and it seems like the school board may be shutting the school down, and it seems like Louisa's the only one that really cares about the jeopardy of the school. I mean, you have the school assistant, teacher's assistant, who could care less, says that she's ruined her youth. She wants to move on to better things. It's probably best if the school gets shut down. She goes to the principal of all people, and that principal is a weird character. I mean, it seems like all he cared about was his Wordle streak. And I'm like, I don't know about him. He just didn't seem to care. He gave up pretty much because he told her they had a fight. They can't do nothing about it now. It was what it was. It is what it is. And it seems like she's the only one that cares that there is something going on, that the school is in jeopardy. Then, of course, Martin goes to visit at the school. He confronts Junior, which that was probably not a good idea on his part, but, it's in his mind. He's got to figure out what's going on. And, of course, that's when Louisa kind of has a little heart-to-heart with him, tells him, I feel like she feels like that she can open up to him more because he opened up to her at the baked bean thing at his house, kind of telling her about his sister and about the bully and all that. So she feels like she could have a heart-to-heart with him. And, of course, Martin being Martin, he has one thing on his mind, and that's to prove that he did not hurt Junior. He did not cause Junior's injury. So he kind of blows her off. He listens to her. She's explaining how the school's in jeopardy, and of course, he doesn't really sympathize. He just says, "Yeah, that makes sense," and then talks about how he's in a lawsuit and he didn't do this and he didn't do that, and I think she just in a way wanted him to kind of sympathize with her because he's kind of going through the same thing with this lawsuit, but clearly he doesn't see that. And so he kind of hurts her feelings a little bit, and I don't think he realizes it right away that he's hurt her. He's just being Martin, trying to fix things because he knows that he's not the cause of it. And of course, bad idea going to see Junior at the school because now he has a restraining order on top of his lawsuit. And of course, old Mark had to be Mark again, bringing him coffee. He was like, "I'm going to bring you a coffee," and he's like, "I've already been served," and now he can't be 300 feet from near any of the Rosses, which is, he's just getting in a bigger and bigger hole, unfortunately. And of course, it didn't help. This part really made me upset too, but before we see him getting the restraining order, we have the part where Elaine failed to tell him that the records were downstairs. And that's another part of me that is like really upset with Elaine, because I feel like Elaine could really be a huge help to him if she would for 1 second lay down the phone from the social media and actually try to make an effort of doing her job in a way, because she finds out that she finds out her mom's getting married, which she did not like that whatsoever, so she's not moving back. She's found out that she did in fact have a twin, and that she ended up absorbing the twin while her mom was pregnant due to a condition, some kind of condition that it's a real thing. I can't remember what it's called. So she's really shaken up that she had a twin sister but didn't have a twin sister. So that's all she has in her mind. So she goes downstairs and finds her own medical records and confirms it and is talking to the social media about it, but doesn't tell Doc when he asks her, Martin wants to know. And she says, "Well, yeah, it didn't cross my mind. I've blocked that out until something I actually was important came about, and then I unblocked it." And I'm thinking to myself, was that necessary? I mean, I kind of feel bad because, this is something important. Martin's job is on the line, and if this medical record can prove that in fact, Junior has an underlying medical condition, this could change things. But in Elaine's mind, if it's not about her, it doesn't matter. And I'm like, she could have at least told him about the downstairs records. Just saying. So that did bother me a little bit. And again, him thinking that he was having a heart-to-heart with her, but she was on her phone. Which one day I think it's going to come and back and not haunt her, but I think one day she's going to realize that she could have been more nicer to him and paid more attention to him, because I want their relationship with each other to grow. And, well, we found the medical records finally. We found out that he had one kidney. So there goes the problem with the back pain, but doesn't explain the weak bones. And of course, like we talked about, Mark came back with more papers to serve on Martin, a restraining order. And the little thing about the joke about the latte, when he brought Martin a latte, Martin's like, "I don't drink that foam, give it to Elaine." And Elaine was like, "Better latte than never." And Martin is so right. He's like, the humor in this town's bar is set way low, which in a way it is, because it's the corny little jokes that gets me, that they just crack up. It's the same. It was the same thing in the restaurant when he goes in there to get his to-go plate, and the whole town's in there still mad at him about the whole baseball thing, and you have the old man that wanted depression medicine or whatever, and he calls him Dr. Downer, and then you have the guy that couldn't hear. And when he says, "I emphasize I want my plate to go," he says, we all would like you to go, and they all start laughing. I'm like, the humor is just, these people just crack me up. They're very corny. What else can we dig in? Well, we've talked about the records, confirming that he has one kidney. So, of course, he gets served the restraining order, and Louisa calls and says that Junior is in a lot of pain. He needs to get there immediately. And he's like, well, I would like to see Junior, but I have a restraining order. And, Louisa could get him in trouble, which I guess, in a way, Martin could not go if he didn't. If he really cared about getting in trouble even more, he probably would not go. But because he's a doctor and in his mind he likes to help people fix their problems, he's going to go regardless. Because Louisa makes the comment, you are 5 minutes away. You can come. I don't care. Don't make excuses. And it was funny. Him climbing through the window was so funny because that does not seem like a doc thing to do. So the fact that Martin was actually coming through the window, it was made me think, was that a Louisa idea? Did Louisa come up with the idea, come through the window so people don't see you? That was just so funny. And then, of course, when you imagine the whole problem Junior had was he had a kidney stone. And then we learned that he was abusing protein powder, and that's why his bones are brittle. And that's kind of a sad situation. I kind of feel bad because, he was talking about, don't tell my dad because I want to make him proud. And I kind of was like, sounds like his dad might be a little rough on him, but it doesn't seem like the dad knows that he was doing this. So that was a whole thing. And of course, the whole thing where he kind of threatens Martin. He tells Martin that he has to tell his dad. And he's saying, but then it would be my fault. And, Martin's like, it is your fault. And then the whole thing about him saying he kind of was like his dad in a way because he told Martin, well, couldn't I get you arrested because you came? And I was like, did he seriously just do that? He literally just diagnosed you and is sending you to the hospital. And you are really going to play the game of blackmailing him by getting him in trouble for violating the restraining order. That was just, I was like father, like son, pretty much. But I did like the fact that him and Louisa kind of had a heart moment because I think he slowly starts to realize what she was talking about when he makes the comment, yeah, this could jeopardize my job. And she says, gee, doesn't it feel, or she says something about, how does it feel to know that you could lose your job? And then it kind of hits him. I think he realizes that her being a teacher means the world to her. And he kind of, at the end, hanging out the window, finally says kind of the right thing in a way, because he does apologize in a way, not really an apology, but does finally admit that he understands that she, what she's going through about the potential of losing her job. And I thought that was a breakthrough moment that he actually is finally admitting something. And then let's skip ahead to the baseball game. What did you think of Mark's face paint? I thought that was something else. And the whole thing I thought was sweet was when Louisa, it's still bugging her that she may lose her job because the school's going to get shut down, and you have Elaine excited for the game, and then Elaine has a heart-to-heart moment with Louisa. Does it turn a little bit weird at the end? Yes, a little bit. But I thought it was super sweet that Elaine said what she said. For once, she's actually talking to people other than on her phone. She makes the comment about, because she asks Louisa what's wrong, and Louisa explains to her, don't tell nobody, but the school's going to get shut down. And Elaine, has a heart-to-heart moment. It's like, they can't do that. So many people here have went to the school, and then talks about how she's a good teacher. And in a way, that made me feel happy, because I was like, finally, somebody understands Louisa's perspective and is given a heart-to-heart with her. And, it was nice to see, and I could tell that Louisa was happy that she reached out, had a heart-to-heart with Elaine, because Elaine said the stuff that she needed to hear. And then we find out that she's wanting to rent her apartment a room, and it sounds like Elaine may be moving in, so that'll be fun. I'm sure Martin, the doc, is going to be happy that Elaine is moving out. Going to be living somewhere else so he can be alone again. Do I feel like maybe he will regret it? Maybe just a little bit, because I do really feel like he was hoping to Elaine was talking about him throughout her video chat things because, I don't think he wouldn't stop and listen if he didn't care. And of course, when I say it got weird at the end, it got weird because she makes the comment they started hugging. And she said, yeah, you could be the sister that I didn't eat. You could be the sister that I never had because I ate her or whatever. And I was like, whatever, however she said it. And I was like, that is a little weird. And, even Louisa was like, what is she talking about? So we get to our baseball game. The plot that we have been waiting for. Will the mosquitoes beat the woodpeckers? And unfortunately, looks like Junior, despite Doc Martin's or Dr. Best's medical advice about taking it easy, they put him in because somebody got injured and he's a pitch runner. And, Martin shows up, and of course, everybody in the town's there, so I'm not surprised that he showed up. But the whole thing with Mark being like, no, you can't be here. You have to be 300 feet away from all the Rosses. And he'd make a big to-do about it. And then he slowly, lets him stay because the whole, the old man that said that he has depression because of, it calls him Dr. Downer, says, sit down, you might actually see us win or whatever. So I didn't see the big to-do about that because it ends up they're letting him stay. But of course, I was cringing for my life whenever Junior walks out, and he's on the base, and I'm like, what is going to happen? And you can see the look on Doc's eyes, like, I told him not to play. He's going to get badly injured. And then we get to the dramatic ending of the whole thing. The slow motion really gets your heart beating. I was like, what is about to happen? You see him start running when Junior is starting to run to home base. Doc starts running to the field. You see it, and I'm like, what is about to happen? And then you realize he's about to tackle the hind catcher of the other team. And he does, and he ends up saving Junior from getting badly hurt, but everybody else doesn't see it that way. Once again, Doc is the enemy but it was kind of nice for a split second because Mark says, Doc is a hero. He saved Junior, because even Junior stood up to Glendon, finally, his dad, and he was like, because Glendon's like, what are you doing? You're going to go to jail. And Glendon's son, Junior, finally stands up to him and is like, no, he saved me. He finally, owned up to it. Could he have told his dad a long time ago that he was abusing protein powder, overusing? Maybe, yeah. But it was nice to see at the end that he admits to his dad that the doc was in the right, that he saved him from getting badly hurt. Now, did he cause them to lose the game and the Woodpeckers win the championship once again? Yes. And did the whole town not like him for that? Yes. But in my opinion, they should get over it. They should be happy for him that he saved Junior's life, so to speak. There'll be other games, hopefully. I can understand that this was a big deal to them, that they wanted this game. And even Doc made the comment in the restaurant. He doesn't understand what the big deal is. They act like it's a major league it's a World Series. It's just high school baseball. And who was it? I think it was Greg said, yeah, but it's a lot more than that. All of these people went to this school, grew up going to this school. We haven't made it to the end since blah, 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 blah. And so I think slowly he is starting to realize that the little things mean a whole lot to this town and that he just needs to start embracing it more, whether he likes it or not. And then we do got to come talk about the ending right quick. After the baseball game's over, we cut to Aunt Sarah and Eddie McCoy. And it sounds like they're having a banter between each other. And I was like, yeah, this is never going to end. It sounds like they just have it out for each other. But I did not in a million years see that they were going to... The whole reason they have a whole thing against each other is because it seems like they have a love for each other because they end up making out at the end. And of course, I had to die laughing. I'm like, so this is what this was all about, and it was just so funny. And then even, Martin was like so surprised, and then when Louisa says, "Oh, this happens every year," the look on Martin's face, and I was like, every year? I mean, now you just got to realize that there is something more going on. There's got to be something. Is it a love connection that they just don't know about, or what is this? It's just so funny. But that was a good little ending to it. The whole day she's destroying this guy's property to end up making out with him. It was just so funny. So that was a recap of episode 3 of season 1 of Best Medicine. Like I said at the beginning, this was a really fun episode. We got to learn more about characters. We learn a little bit more, and the comedy in general was hilarious. So right now I'm going to do a little bit of a recap now that we've talked about the show, what I'm liking and what I wished I would have seen and stuff like that. So first of all, let's talk about the relationships. The Elaine and Dr. Best Martin's relationship, like I said, I'm hoping that it grows into something where he becomes a father figure to her, whether she realizes it or not. Just because I can tell that he has a little bit of compassion for her. He doesn't really want to show that. But he would, if he didn't care, why did he talk to her about when she was talking about her heart's on the opposite side of her body and she doesn't like tomatoes? Why would he bring up that she may have a twin if he did not care? Why did he stop in the hallway when he was to listen to her conversation when she said, "I have a father figure," if he didn't care? Like, I think that he does care, and I'm hoping that slowly, without them noticing, they become connected like that. As always, I want to see Al and Elaine's relationship grow. I think they would be a cute couple. And, it's just, we're on the 3rd episode, and Al is still showing compassion and love. And I think slowly Elaine is realizing that he has a little bit of feelings for her. And hopefully she doesn't hurt him and she actually commits if she really does want to be in a relationship with him. Aunt Sarah's character was fun this week. We got to see a different side of her, a side that I didn't know she would have. And it was funny. I enjoyed that. And I can say that she is a little bit different than Martin. I don't think Martin acts like that in a way, unless it could surprise me. Something could surprise me, and it could be that he has a little bit of that side to him. But it was fun to see Aunt Sarah's character develop. Her having a feud with this Eddie McCoy, and then the ending was hilarious. Mark's character, same silly, quirky sheriff. Like I said, some things were annoying. He was a little too over the top whenever he was happy that he did not cause the injury and blames the doc. Like that, wrong place at the wrong time. A little bit too much, he could have acted a little differently, in my opinion. Greg and George, didn't get to see them much again. I mean, there were snippets of them, and I still love their characters, and I hope to get to know them more as well. And then Brisket wasn't on this episode. I was really hoping to see Brisket the pig on this episode. I want to see him throughout the episodes. So maybe next week. Maybe it was because it wasn't really about the restaurant. It was more about the baseball game. Maybe that's why we didn't get to see appearance of Brisket. But hopefully that'll change. We'll see Brisket more because I love Brisket. He's becoming one of my favorite another fun animal character. And of course the doggy. We have the dog that has no name. Can we please name the dog already? Martin says he's not naming it, but I think it needs a name. If it's going to be a part of the show, it needs a name. And I think we've covered everybody. We talked, and Louisa and Martin's relationship. I feel like I want to see them talk more. I want to see Martin start to maybe show a little bit of sympathy, like really caring when she's spilling her heart out to him. Like, I was like, could you at least not say something wrong for 1 minute and actually listen to her when she was talking about she may be losing her job? And he cuts to instantly saying, yeah, that makes sense because it economically, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, she didn't need to hear that. Can you just for once just listen to her and feel a little bit of sympathy, empathy for her? So hopefully as the show goes on, we'll see a little bit more of that. Since she feels like she can connect to him because he connected with her by spilling out the whole childhood situation. So we will see. But yeah, that was my thoughts on episode 3 of Best Medicine, and I cannot wait to see episode 4 next week. Oh, on a side note, I do want to bring up, I don't know if anybody saw it or not, but did you see the fun little commercial Fox did? It was on their social media page. It was a commercial promoting Best Medicine for the Salty Breeze. It was a Salty Breeze restaurant commercial with Greg and George, and it was like Elaine was directing it, and it was just super cute and funny. I enjoyed it, and there was you got to see the characters more. And there was a surprise character that's coming up in the series. Martin's dad. We got to see a little sneak peek of him, which is super cool. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there too, that they did release that on Friday, and I saw that, and I thought that was funny and cute to kind of promote the show. But yeah, that was my thoughts of Best Medicine, and if you are a Doc Martin fan and you want to see my perspective of what I thought comparing the two shows, stick around and we'll dive right into it. If not, if you've not seen Doc Martin yet, goodbye for now, and I will see you next week with another review. So hello to my fellow Doc Martin fans. If you made it to this part of the video, we're going to be digging into episode 3 of Best Medicine Season 1 that came on last night, and I'm going to give you my perspective as a Doc Martin fan of what I thought of it coinciding with one another. This episode was really fun to watch, in my opinion. We got to learn a lot about the characters, and I'm really excited to see what's in store for the next few episodes. Before we dig in, I do want to talk about the commercial that came out on Friday on Fox's social media. If you have no clue what I'm talking about, they did a fun little promotional commercial with Greg and George talking and promoting the Salty Breeze restaurant. And it was a whole fun little skit they did. Elaine was the director, and you had a little bit of everybody in the commercial. You had Aunt Sarah promoting it, talking about how it's a big staple for the community. You had Mark Milo being Mark himself, goofy and funny, doing his part in the commercial. You had Martin Best, Doc Martin, in there. And, of course, he was being himself, didn't want to be in the commercial. And then we had a surprise guest, and I was really excited to see his cameo appearance because I'm really excited to see him join the season and join the cast. And who am I talking about? I'm talking about Mr. Martin Clunes himself. He was in a little sneak in the commercial reel as Martin's dad, Robert Best. And he was the same Doc as we remember, very grumpy. He did not want to be in the commercial, of course, and he was like, no, go away. And it was a little sneak peek of him, and it was just so exciting because it kind of, if you're like me, a huge original Doc Martin fan, it got you excited because it does confirm that he is going to be in a few of the episodes of this season later on, and it was just nice to see his cameo appearance after not seeing him on screens since Doc Martin since it's wrapped up. So that was fun. A little fun side note, seeing that little commercial. They released it Friday, and it was fun to watch. So let's dig into episode 3. In regards to relating to original Doc Martin, there were a few little things here and there. One thing that shocked me was the whole Aunt Sarah and the Eddie McCoy thing. It seemed like it was just a normal banter between two people. She didn't like that he was in her territory, lobster territory, so she was doing all these things, getting injured and whatsoever. And then at the end, you see her making out with him after having a little banter between each other after the baseball game, and I did not see that coming whatsoever. Thought that was hilarious. And, it kind of goes back to the whole thing whenever Martin walks in on Aunt Joan and the painter. Was it the painter? I think it was the painter. Earlier was it season 1 or season 2? Can't remember. But he walks in on her and the painter because she has a love interest with him, and clearly it was a little bit more than Aunt Sarah's situation, but it's still funny because it was still awkward because Martin Best sees Aunt Sarah making out with him, and he was all confused and everything. It wasn't as extreme as Martin from the original walking in on Aunt Joan, but still, that was funny. Then, of course, the main thing itself, the medical thing of the Junior Ross, Glendon's son, having back problems, turns out just to be a kidney stone. But Dr. Best, trips over him, causing him to break his arm, realizing that there's something more wrong with this kid. And it all goes back to season 3 of original Doc Martin, when you have, was it season 3 or season 4? Whatever, it was the episode where Aunt Joan's funeral, and you had the boy of the funeral director's son was carrying the casket at the funeral and ends up hurting his back, which then leads to Martin tripping over him, which he was doing an examination. And it turns out, in both situations, they were both abusing the protein powder, trying to get fit in bulk. And so it was kind of the same thing, but it was one of those things where you didn't know it right away. Like, it wasn't like episode 1 where I felt like it was a copycat. It was perfect like episode 2 where, yeah, they took ideas, but, like, you didn't catch on right away. You still could enjoy the show. Not saying I didn't enjoy episode 1, but you could enjoy the show a little bit more because there was a lot of turns and twists happening. So yeah, and I think another thing that is in common was the whole Elaine and the Doc thing. In series 1 of the original, Elaine finds out that her dad's getting remarried, and she has a whole situation where she is not happy with that whatsoever. And Doc Martin, tries to sympathize with her, tries to have a talk with her. He's not good at having small talk, but he tries to comfort her, but she doesn't take it the right way, and there was a whole thing. So, there was that, but, it was the same thing where Elaine, in our episode, she's staying at the docks because of her mom. She moved out, had an argument with her mom. Turns out her mom's getting remarried. She's not happy with that. And, Martin kind of is... It wasn't like a heart-to-heart with the Elaine and Martin on the original, where he actually does talk to her. But you can tell that I think he kind of feels bad for her, and he does care for her, because there was little things that he did, like why did he stop in the hallway when she was talking about her father figure if he didn't really care? Now, was she mean? And it turns out she was saying that her father figure is dead and wasn't talking about him. Yeah, that was a little mean, but there's little things, like, if he didn't care, why is he taking the time to talk to her? Another example is when she was talking and carrying on about her heart being on the opposite side of her body, and she doesn't like tomatoes and this and that, and he makes the comment, do you have a twin? And she's like, no, why would I have a twin? And he actually talks to her and explains. Now, did she listen to him? Not necessarily, but little things like it coincide that in this the original to this one, with the characters, kind of same kind of storyline, so to speak. The whole the whole Louisa and Martin thing, where Louisa finds out that she may be losing her job because the school's going to shut down, and she tries to pour her heart out to Martin, have a heart-to-heart with him, because she feels like she can do that because he had a heart-to-heart with her after the baked bean supper, explaining to her why he moved back and all this and that. And of course, Martin being Martin, he doesn't listen. He's not listening. He only cares about proving that he did not cause the injury to Junior. And so he kind of makes the remark, it makes sense economically, and that kind of hurts her a little bit, and she kind of gets upset with him. And it goes back to the whole thing, like in the original. Martin says dumb things that he shouldn't say to Louisa, and he causes her to get angry with him. And I'm like, why did you have to say that? Can you for once listen? That's all I'm asking. And of course, you just got to get over it, because that's just Martin's personality. But yeah, there was that too. But it was nice to see at the end, towards the end, whenever Martin climbs through the window to diagnose Junior, because Louisa insists he goes there despite him having a restraining order against him. He shows up, and he Junior makes the remark, I could get you in trouble, couldn't I, because you're violating the restraining order. And then Louisa makes the comment, see, it does hurt a little bit to not know, to be uncertain whether you're going to have a job or not. It kind of hits Martin a little bit, and he realizes what she means. And then hanging out the window, he does kind of say how he understands what she is going through. So that was kind of nice but still, Martin's being Martin. So that does coincide with both. But yeah, that was my thoughts of the show, of it, like, in thoughts of how it's in common with each other, how it ties in with each other. And I'm excited to see episode 4. And I'm not totally sure, but I think I read something that Martin Clunes will be cameoing starting in episode 5, which will be fun to look out for, because I'm really excited to see him on screen again and to see what he comes up with for this new character, because it sounds like it might be he's not the main character. He's obviously not Doc Martin, but maybe he'll bring that personality into his new character. We will see. I'm super excited about that. But yeah, that was my thoughts on Best Medicine episode 3 in regards to how it ties in with Doc Martin. And I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm enjoying making these videos, and I can't wait for episode 4. We'll be doing a review on that very soon, obviously whenever it comes out next week. And yeah, if you have any thoughts, please leave a comment down below what you're thinking about this episode and the series in general. And I will see you back here next week. Take care. Whoa, whoa, whoa.